What is going on, everybody? So for today's video, gonna do something. This is Troy, by the way. Half Court Report YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. So gonna do something a little different today because I've been doing lots of playoff preview videos. It's playoff season, but I saw this video that I want to react to from JxmyHighroller himself, the GOAT, if you will, doing a story about the soon-to-be GOAT. Okay, what Luka did is just unbelievable. What did Luka do, and what is so unbelievable about the Slovenian prodigy Luka Doncic III, Esquire, PhD himself? I've not watched this video, but it's getting tons of views. So I'm like, hey, if Jenny from the block, if Jenny from the block, JxmyHighroller can get tons of views, then maybe I can too. I don't know. Okay, so let's watch this. Well, you can watch this right along with me, and I will be pausing to give my reactions in case you've never seen a reaction video before. Wearing the new Half Court Report t-shirts. It was just my birthday. My wife had this made for me. How cool is that? I don't know. Hey, if you want a Half Court Report t-shirt, let me know in the comments. We'll make it happen. Okay, and here we go. What Luka did is just unbelievable.
After 7 hard-fought games, the LA Clippers finally defeat Luka and the Dallas Mavericks, once again bouncing them out of the first round of the playoffs. And although the Mavs still have a lot of work to do before they contend for a title, their future is bright. All thanks to this guy. Because what we just saw from Luka Doncic was nothing short of spectacular. Game after game, this kid was giving 2 of the league's best perimeter defenders absolute nightmares, averaging, are you ready for this? 36 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds a game on 41% shooting.
Almost triple-double.
Somehow, with his seemingly half-speed, herky-jerky wizardry, Luka put up these all-time, all-world, all-universe type numbers. We are watching this young man build a legacy right in front of our eyes, doing things that only a few players before him have accomplished, and even crazier, he's making it look easy in the process. As much as fans like to pick on them, this Clippers team is no joke. And here's Luka taking his time to methodically pick them apart, play after play. And all of this got me thinking.
Like, Luka's trash talking is just, this dude, I love this guy's moxie when he's out on the court. I love it.
Is Luka Doncic the best 22-year-old basketball player ever?
Yes, he is.
I mean, of course this wouldn't make him the GOAT. Just the GTTYOOAT. A claim like this is pretty bold. So last week on the Bill Simmons podcast, Bill mentioned the fact that he truly cannot recall another 22-year-old that was this great. Ever.
Luka Doncic he's 22 years old. I think from a hoops IQ combined with presence / talent / just ability to dissect the other team, he's the most advanced I've ever seen. The fact that he's doing this at the age he's at, with the lack of reps that he has, this was his 8th playoff game ever. Leonard and George had 2 really good offensive games. And they don't really know what they're going to get from everyone else in the team. This is an unbelievable subplot with them, where
he makes a great point. I mean, well, it was a couple games in there. Well, I mean, he was basically outplaying Kawhi and PG pretty much every game, even though they did lose the series. But just the thing, you know, they would have Pat Bev on him, carve him up. They would have Kawhi on him, carve him up. Paul George on him, carve him up. You know, not every play, of course, but how did Bagley and Ayton go in front of this guy?
They won 1 playoff series last year. This year, they tanked the last couple games so they could play Dallas and get out of the Lakers division. And meanwhile, they willingly chose to go against Luka, who's the best 22-year-old basketball player of all time. He is. I'm just going to say it. I can't. Yeah, maybe Magic. God. Now I have to think about this. All right. I'm going to recant. He's in the running for best 22-year-old basketball player ever. Certainly the most accomplished. Certainly the most statistically accomplished. And the Clippers were like, that's the guy we want. Well, that was really dumb.
The highest praise a young player can get from a man who's just about seen it all. But there is a long and vast history of players excelling the minute they stepped into the league. Magic Johnson. Watch the NBA playoffs live.
on a variety of networks.
Presented by YouTube TV on YouTube.
They say when you come from a small town like us, you do things your own way. Like building a state-of-the-art network.
Skip.
Had one of the greatest finals performances in NBA history on his way to winning a championship at just 20 years old. At just 21 years old, Shaquille O'Neal averaged 29 and 13 and was already a top 10 player in the league. LeBron dragged the Cavaliers to the finals at just 22 years old. Kobe had already made 2 All-Star teams and was an NBA champion before he even turned 22. And Devin Booker dropped 70 points in an NBA game when he was just 20. So, all things considered, where does Luka Doncic rank amongst the greatest 22-year-olds to ever do it? Well, it's tough to narrow down and quantify qualities that make a player great. Scoring, passing, defense, leadership, IQ, composure. What matters the most?
Out of all those, like, the thing that immediately sticks out to me is Luka's basketball IQ is, I mean, Magic Johnson, of course, had outstanding basketball IQ. He was, I wasn't watching the NBA a ton in the 80s. But, I mean, Luka's basketball IQ is just... Can we say unrivaled? It's close.
Can you take a player's entire game and compare it to another player's? Oftentimes from different eras, playing different positions. Well, I think I've got a solid way of going about this. Similar to other ranking videos I've done in the past, we will be finding the best 22-year-old in league history by using these 7 categories.
Okay.
Now, we all know that there is no perfect stat. But the combination of a few good stats will give us what I believe to be a pretty accurate result. We will take each player and rank them in each category based on their numbers before their 23rd birthday. The player with the most combined points from all 7 categories is what at least I would consider to be the best 22-year-old basketball player ever. Now, for the sake of this experiment, we are not including seasons that players turn 23 in. So if a player started a season as a 22-year-old but soon after turned 23, we are not going to include those numbers. So with that being said, these are the players we will be assessing in our experiment. For the most part, some of the best players...
So we're not including Mo Bamba on this list.
All time, as well as some players who really shined in their first few seasons. Obviously, players that entered the league at a young age get a head start in their NBA journey, but that's the advantage you get when you're 18 years old and good enough to play in the NBA. But if you look over these players, you'll notice some all-time greats missing. Kareem, Bird, Wilt, Hakeem, Bill Russell, and a lot more. And that's because these guys don't even qualify for the title of best 22-year-old basketball player ever, due to the fact that they all turned 23 years old or older in their rookie season. So now that we got the criteria and the players, let's get into this. For the first category, we have the combined total of points per game, assists per game, and rebounds per game from each player's best season before the age of 23. And right off the bat,
who we got this time?
When we plant a seed,
careers in agriculture.
We plant hope.
Become a farmer, kids.
Hope for a stronger economy.
Luka takes the lead with a total of 47 combined points, rebounds, and assists per game, which he set last season when he averaged 29, 9, and 9. LeBron came in second with 45, and Shaq came in third with 44.9. Next, we have All-Star appearances. And to my surprise, only these 12 players have multiple All-Star appearances before the age of 23. LeBron and Kobe are the only players to have 3 All-Star nods, and everyone else is tied for second.
You gotta remember, Kobe, like, he didn't even start his first year in the league, and he was just voted in by the fans, averaging 14, 15 points a game, which, I mean, is really good for 17-year-old, 18-year-old at the time, but then LeBron, he was voted in too, I think.
What's crazy here is that only one player in NBA history has made an NBA All-Star team as a teenager, and that was Kobe. Now, this next category is interesting. Playoff win shares, which is a statistic that sums up the overall wins a player helped contribute in the playoffs. I chose playoff win shares as opposed to regular season win shares because the best players tend to rise up in the postseason when it matters most, while others tend to shrink in these bigger moments. And in this category...
He's like, let me just find a clip of Kirk Heinrich getting rejected by, who was it, Dwight Howard, I think? Poor Kirk. Rock chalk.
Number 1 spot goes to Magic Johnson, which, if you're familiar with his postseason heroics early in his career, this doesn't surprise you. LeBron came in second with 5.4 playoff win shares before the age of 23, and Jason Tatum came in third with 4.4. The only player in his generation to crack this category.
Interesting.
Next is the marquee performance category. which is just the best game from each player before their 23rd birthday. To measure the quality of each player's best game, I used the game score stat. If you're not familiar, the game score stat measures all the good things and all the bad things a player did in a game and gives that game a score. The higher the score, the better. And in this category, there is a very clear winner.
For 20, Chris is 0 for 7.
This is 80-point game.
Booker from straight
70-point game.
Feels like, wait,
maybe.
He book for 3. 42 and a half. Here we go.
In first place is Devin Booker, who at just 20 years old had one of the best games in NBA history. In second is Shaq, with a game score of 48.7, which came from a game in just his second season in the league, where he dropped 53 and 18 on 71% shooting. And in third is Karl Anthony Towns with a game score of 46 that came from a 56 and 15 performance in just his third NBA season.
Come on.
The next category is win shares per 48. Again, a stat that isn't widely referenced in mainstream basketball culture, but it should be, because it might just be the best statistic in terms of determining a player's value to winning. Simply put, this stat shows us how many wins a player contributes to their team each game. And in this category...
State Farm. Jake from State Farm. In the woods with an axe.
Abernay or Malbec?
That doesn't
I
make
can
me
never
want
decide. Thank heavens Travelocity has flights with no change fees, so I...
Anthony Davis tops the chart, followed by Shaquille O'Neal, and a player that has faded into the background over the last few years, Amari Stoudemire. But if you watched a young Amari in the mid-2000s, you would know just how important he was to the success of the...
This doesn't really speak to Amari's basketball play, but I find it interesting how over the course of his career he changed the spelling of his first name at least 2, maybe 3 times. He would have the apostrophe at the end. He would have the apostrophe there. Between the R and the E, he would have no apostrophe. Maybe I should do that.
Powerhouse that was the Phoenix Suns. Now, this next category really displays the star power of the best 22-year-olds to ever play, and that's MVP votes. And taking the top spot is the youngest MVP in league history, Derrick Rose, who in just one season racked up 1,182 MVP votes, more than any of these players did in 2, 3, and in some cases, 4 seasons.
So Jokic was just named the MVP today. I mean, you got to think Luka's the front runner for next year, right? I kind of thought he would get it this year before the season started, but Jokic was just unbelievable.
Second is LeBron James with 975, and in third is Kevin Durant with 799. Keep in mind that although this season isn't over, Luka is projected to finish 8th in MVP votes, which we can assume is about 25, give or take.
That's low.
And the last but possibly most important category is leadership. We have seen a lot of young talented players in the NBA throughout the years, but what really separates the good ones from the great ones is their ability to rally the troops, to gain the trust of their team and staff and turn a franchise around. And there really is no definitive way of measuring a player's leadership qualities. So for this category, I took the liberty of just ranking them myself. It's not perfect, but it's my channel, and there's nothing you can do about it. So in first place is Magic Johnson, who at just 20 years old joined one of the most successful franchises in NBA history with a star-studded cast and still managed to come out as their leader on their way to a championship.
That's unreal.
And second is LeBron, who dragged this ragtag bunch to the...
Who we got on this team real quick? Hold on. Ilgauskas, Larry Hughes, Sasha Pavlovich, Drew Gooden, Varejao, Boobie Gibson, Eric Snow, Donyell Marshall, Damon Jones, Ira Newble, and good old Scott Pollard of the samurai hairdo himself. Wow. So I got Ilgauskas. I guess he's second best player on the team, who would be probably in his prime. Probably a 4th option on a really good team. Wow. It's really bad.
And had the entire city of Cleveland believing they were watching Jesus Christ in a basketball jersey. And in third is Luka, who has shown us all that with minimal help, he can guide a franchise to the playoffs and put up a fight against all NBA talents in just his third
How would
NBA
Luka have done
season,
it with that LeBron
a feat
team?
reserved for only the most elite players to ever lace up. So now that we've discussed and ranked all 28 players across all 7 categories, who is the greatest 22-year-old NBA player of all time? Well, I've got a chart for that. Near the bottom, you've got the great, near all-time young talent. McGrady, Dirk, Duncan, Garnett. Then there's this gap between these 17 players and the greatest young talent in league history. Michael Jordan, Karl Anthony Towns cracks the top 10, along with Amari Stoudemire, Kobe, Anthony Davis, Derrick Rose. Go a bit higher, and you've got the kid that inspired this entire experiment, Luka Doncic.
Wow.
And right above him is the Mount Rushmore of 22-year-old hoopers. Magic Johnson, Kevin Durant, Shaquille O'Neal, and LeBron James.
Wow, okay.
Pretty much.
Because I was like, wait a minute, where's the fourth? Because he's at Mount Rushmore. Okay.
A league of his own.
Okay.
This is what I consider to be the best 22-year-olds ever. Luka near the top, but not quite as incredible as a few others. Going into this, my prediction to come out on top was LeBron. Partially because I'm a LeBron stan, but mostly because if you watched a young LeBron James in his first 4 NBA seasons, you would understand why he's the best 22-year-old we've ever seen.
Ad time.
This could be you.
Man,
Binge
Jimmy's
watching
making lots
the
of money on
ocean.
this video.
Crushing on
Man,
your
oh
favorite
man.
character.
As great as he still is after all these years, LeBron has really slowed down in the past few seasons. He's less airborne, his defense is spotty at best sometimes, he tends to pick his spots a bit more methodically now than he used to, and he's dialed it down a few notches in an effort to preserve his health and energy. But when this man was 22, he was like a 6'8", 240-pound bull in a china shop. Fast, strong, explosive, and smart with an underrated shooter's touch. He was dominant on offense and pesky on defense. For a stretch there, LeBron had his hands in so many aspects of the game night in and night out that if you gave him the starting 5 of your local high school basketball team and told him to make it work, you'd seriously consider the fact that he'd still make a playoff run. It has been a long time since we've seen a young LeBron James, but for those who were there to witness it live, you know exactly why he was.
Jerseys were so big and baggy back in the day. Goodness.
GOAT talks the moment he entered the league.
I like the fitted jersey.
Look at this. This video is not sped up. He is too damn big to be moving like that. In just 3 seasons, LeBron took the Cavaliers from the worst team in the NBA with 17 wins to a 50-win championship contender. And in just 4 seasons, he took them to the finals, sweeping the Wizards with prime Gilbert Arenas and Antoine Jamison, beating the Nets in 6 with prime Vince Carter and Jason Kidd, and beating a loaded Pistons squad.
That was a Nets team that had gone to the finals a couple times already.
6. By the time he was 20, he already made All-NBA second team, which means LeBron was virtually a top 10 player in the NBA before he could legally drink. Combine that with his star power and his crazy numbers, and you've got the greatest young hooper the game has ever seen. And if we take a look at our top 10, there's a few things worth noting. Luka finished in 5th, which is about where I expected him to finish. Because as great as Luka has been so far in his young career, the 4 players that finished above him were slightly better at 22 years old. Shaq, who to my surprise finished in 2nd, was putting up 29, 13, and 3 in just his 2nd NBA season, and finished 4th in MVP voting. In his 2nd NBA season. Kevin Durant finished in 3rd, and again, if you saw a young Durant play, you'd understand why he came out slightly ahead of Luka. People tend to forget that Durant was only 18 years old when he was drafted.
Durant, he was young for his age. He was like a 17-year-old college kid.
By the time he was 22, he already had 2 scoring titles, was runner-up in the MVP race, and made it to the conference finals. And at just 21 years old, Kevin Durant already made first-team All-NBA. Then there's Magic Johnson at 4th, who led the Lakers to not 1, but 2 NBA championships by the time he was 22, averaging a near triple-double in the playoffs, which is an accomplishment that is almost impossible to even imagine in today's NBA. Just think about, by the end of this postseason, Luka already had 2 rings, which leaves Luka at 5th. He's already made first-team All-NBA, he has the most absurd stat lines of anyone on this list, and he already has a handful of Hardwood Classic playoff performances. He isn't quite the best we've ever seen at this age, but he is certainly amongst the most elite company a player could be a part of. Spots 6th through 10th also feature some all-time great players. Derrick Rose finished in 6th, which just solidifies his title as the NBA's greatest what-if story, the youngest MVP in league history. The great Kobe Bryant is a no-brainer on this list. By 22, already made 3 All-Star teams and was the ultimate closer on arguably the best team in NBA history. Amari Stoudemire finished in 9th, and just like Derrick Rose, Amari is among the NBA's greatest what-ifs. All-NBA talent by the time he was 22, and was on a trajectory to become the league's best big man before injuries took his career hostage. And rounding out our top 10 is Karl Anthony Towns.
Best big man? I mean, he was good, but you still had Tim Duncan. You still had Shaq had a few good years still. I don't know. I'd have to see the list, but I don't know. I've never been as huge of a Stoudemire fan as some folks. He was good. He had some good seasons with the Suns, but was that just a product of the system, you know?
Who hasn't been notably great recently, but also hasn't had devastating injuries like Rose and Amari. Well, just a few years ago, Towns had the entire NBA convinced he was the next in line as the league's best big man. Don't believe me? Well, in 2017, the NBA asked GMs around the league that if given the chance, who would they choose to rebuild their team around? 19% of GMs said LeBron, 21% said Giannis, and as the overwhelming favorite, 29% of GMs said they would build their team around a 21-year-old Karl Anthony Towns. Those same GMs also voted him as the league's best center. So I'd say he fits in well in this top 10. So, I guess that answers the question. Is Luka Doncic the greatest 22-year-old basketball player to ever play the game? Probably not.
No.
But top 5 ain't bad at all.
Nope.
Especially when the 4 guys ahead of you are LeBron, Shaq, Durant, and Magic. Luka has a shot to be one of the greatest players of all time. He's quickly checking off all the "this guy might be one of the best we've ever seen" boxes. And he's just getting started. What do y'all think of this top 10 list? What changes would you make? Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, until next time.
So what do I think? Well, glad you asked, Jimmy. Good list. And guys, tell me in the comments what you think as well. Definitely a good list. I wonder how much, Jimmy's saying he's a LeBron stan. I wonder how much of that opinion is clouded by just what a physical beast LeBron was at 22 years old and how he was so athletic. Because you don't see Luka running the floor like that. You don't see Luka swatting those shots, throwing down the dunks. Luka, it's a much more cerebral game than with LeBron. That being said, I like the list. We forget how good Magic was because it was so long ago. Magic was amazing back in the day. I think Amari's probably a little high. Like I said, not a huge... Amari's fine, but not a huge Amari guy. Yeah, very interesting video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think too. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you're subbed up. Make sure you like the video. All that good stuff. And I will see you next time.